Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12 of the Saturday Morning Gaming Show. It is December 14th, 2019, and I am your co-host, Thefatwizard, joined today by two other co-hosts who we have here. xWater, right?
Yeah, that's me. What's going on, guys?
And we've got Jaku.
Hey, that's me.
Thank you both so much for joining us on your very first, but hopefully first of many Saturday Morning Gaming Show podcasts. And today we're playing Shining Force for the Sega Genesis. This was actually released in July 1993 in North America. And I'll tell you what, this is probably one of my favorite RPGs, maybe even like top 10 games of all times. How do you two feel about it?
It's actually a game that I really loved as a kid, which is a little weird. So I'm like kind of on the younger side of retro gaming, and a lot of the time, like, this game was out when I was a year old. Like, I'm a 92, but I think at some point when I was a kid, there was this like PC Genesis collection that I got, like, me and my friend went in on together, and it had Shining Force in it. And we're like, I've never heard of this before, and we started playing it, and that was my first ever tactical RPG. And as a kid, I remember loving it, and I didn't remember the details of it like all that well. So going back in and revisiting it for the show has actually been super fun and really cool. So I liked it a lot.
Yeah. As a kid, I would rent this or Shining Force 2 a lot. Didn't really understand a lot because I hated reading in video games back in the day.
Okay.
Like,
who didn't as a kid? Like, how often did you just skip through all the text in a game?
So much, and turns out they explain how things work.
Yep.
With that, yeah. So I was confused.
Well, there wasn't. Like, it's not just reading in the game, but there was also manuals you had to read. Did you skip those as well?
Yeah. No, well, because I rented, so that it didn't come.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's what was tough for me, even replaying. Like, when I was going in, I Googled up the manual because I was like, all right, well, I've got a sword and an axe, and Luke can use either of those. But what are the stats? You know,
what's better, right?
You got to equip them to find out.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm picking up like all these herbs, and it's like, okay, well, there's no description, so I got to go figure this out somehow.
Yeah. Some of them make sense. Medical herb probably heals, but things like angel wing, like what does angel wing do?
Medical herb is something different nowadays.
So let's chat a little bit about how this game works. So it is a tactical RPG, so it's very, very different than most of the RPGs that were coming out traditionally, like JRPGs. You're thinking things like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior. But this is very different in that you still roam around and you talk to villagers. But all the battles are a top-down view, and if you've played Fire Emblem or things like Wargroove, very similar, where you position one unit at a time, and you get one, you can move, and then you can attack, right? Mm-hmm. And then the AI can also move and attack, and you get one. Each character can do one thing, and then it kind of resets to the round, and everyone gets to do another start there. Which was, for me, was a mind-blowing change to how RPGs worked, and I really liked that because I liked playing chess and checkers as a child, and so this is almost a natural progression from that strategic, gameplay. Now, how did you guys feel about this change to kind of a top-down view? Do you like the change or?
I love the strategy RPG genre in general. When I was younger, I remember playing through a couple of like the standard turn-based RPGs, and for whatever reason, like, they just didn't really grasp me. So I remember kind of like dismissing the genre a little bit at first, and then eventually I stumbled into an action JRPG. It was one of the Tales of games. Tales of, I think, Fantasia was the one on the Super Nintendo. And it was so interesting to have an RPG that has a battle element that's not selecting a move and attacking and then waiting for the enemy and then doing the same. So that kind of like started opening my mind up a little more, like, oh, RPGs can be more than just like you hit, they hit, you hit, they hit, you hit, they hit, And so Shining Force's approach and the rest of the tactical RPG genre of like, like you were saying, a more chess-like battlefield, it's, to this day, I think my favorite RPG genre, because I just love so much. I love going in and like looking at the stats of the enemies and saying like, where do I position my warriors so that my archer can best strike next turn, all that kind of stuff. Like there's so many levels of thought that can go into it, and it really does make you feel like a master tactician, which is just so fun.
Especially when you especially when you kind of just roll up on an enemy and you take no damage, you manage to rout the entire force, and you just feel like that superstar, right?
Yeah, xWater took a lot of the words out of my mouth, but like just the fact that you can move your character around on that map and you can kind of plan your moves a lot more and use them for your advantage, because like you said, your archer, they can hit a few spots away, and so they're a safe distance, whereas other players have to get up close, and so they're going to get attacked next round if you don't take them out. And so you can do a lot of cool stuff where like, hey, this character can't cross the water, but you can shoot from there, and what are they going to do? Nothing.
You can't do nothing.
Yeah.
So let's dig into a little bit about what we're actually seeing. So the game starts and you're in the kingdom of Gardenia, and it's in the land of Rune. And you start off with this character named Max. That's his canonical name, but they actually want you to change the name to enter in your save file. And he kind of looks like a 80s action star. You know, he's got big poofy hair and then a headband and then a cape.
Yeah.
But he's your first character, and he's the only character that you have to keep in your party. And what's really cool about these tactical RPGs is they give you a ton of characters. So if you think about a traditional JRPG, you might get like 6 characters throughout the game, and you can only have like 3 of them in your party at any time, so you have to swap off. But in this game, it's like almost every 30, 40 minutes, you're picking up a new character, to the point where you have to start, like, you probably have like 25 different possible characters, and I think you can only have like 12 of them in your party at any time. So what we just saw was we picked up a couple characters out of the bat. Right off the bat, we have Lao, and he's your healer. And then you have Mei, which is sort of this knight that attacks with a polearm. And then you have Ken, which is the same thing. And then you have... Sorry, Ken isn't introduced yet. Oh, he is. Yeah, actually, we're seeing him. And then Tao, which is
you start with Ken and you get Mei after the first
That's
battle.
right. Yeah. And then you have Tao, and that's your magic user. So you kind of start out with the Holy Trinity, right? You've got your tank, you got your DPS, and you've got your healer.
Yeah.
And did you guys?
It's a cool cast of starting characters. And it's funny to watch them go through, because just like any of these like tactical RPGs, one of the most important like factors when you're playing is the RNG stat growth. So what I was curious about from your guys' playthroughs is like, who ended up shining and who ended up like sitting back in the base, and like after about chapter 3, you're like, all right, I gave you a chance, but I'm sorry, Hans, you're being benched. Because for me, Ken ended up being a superstar.
Yeah.
Well, I've played this game so many times that I specifically wanted to take characters that I've never played with before, or usually relegate to the bench there. So I'm really we'll talk about some of the more characters later on, but I am interested in comparing notes to see what our ending party ended up like. So we just did a couple battles, and what's really interesting is the way that you lose in a battle is if your main character, aka Max, is killed. And for people that are watching the video, they might have noticed that I mispositioned Max in like the 3rd fight and immediately ate it. I'm like, ah. And so you get teleported.
That's happened a couple times.
It happens often. At least for me, you get kind of reckless. You're like, there's only 1 or 2 guys left here. Let's run them in there.
Yeah, and they sneak up and do like 14 damage. And it's like, what is that?
Or they'll do like a massive crit.
Yeah,
do like 30 damage. But what was really interesting about this miscalculation is I got teleported to this place where you get resurrected, and I was introduced to a new character that I'm like, what? Where did this guy come from? And his name is Gong. And he's like a battle monk, which is kind of interesting because, traditionally healers are very bad at attacking. But Gong, he's not as good of a healer, but he can actually hit people in the face pretty hard. I don't know if anyone else here had discovered Gong and decided to use him.
No, I did not get him.
I replaced Low with Gong when it came like to a later stage, because I loved just the fact that he was also like, he's a healer, but he's not afraid to throw down. That was cool.
And also in that same area is this little hamster. Who found Yogurt the hamster, aka Jogurt?
I did, and I was like so confused because he just kind of showed up out of nowhere. Like it was in like chapter 4 where he's like in the back of some field and he falls down, and all of a sudden he's a part of your party, and I'm like, what's going on here? And what do you add to the battle? I was like, he's level 1. I don't know.
Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but
he's
an interesting character.
Yeah, so Yogurt, aka Jogurt, is sort of just a joke character. I think he only ever does 1 damage because his stats are all 1s except for his movement is 5. And when you level him up past level 1, you get a yogurt ring, and if you equip a character with a yogurt ring, they have the appearance of yogurt. But he never he never levels past 1. Like you can level him up and he just goes back to level 1. So he was an absolute trash character, but he's kind of fun. Actually, what's kind of interesting is there's a Japanese Shining Force world book. And again, I think it was in Japan, it was called Jogurt, but when they localized it, they changed it to Yogurt. Anyway, he's a helmet-wearing hamster, and apparently his kind or his race are strange creatures from the evil planet Yogurt. So not a planet I'd want to inhabit, but I could see how it could be very evil.
How's a planet evil?
Right.
Like
or not to go too much on a rail here, but don't you fight like a planet in one of the Final Fantasies? Isn't like that like a thing?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't know how a planet can be evil, but the inhabitants could, so I guess that makes it evil.
Oh, yeah. Sure, yeah.
If you have 50% or majority evil inhabitants, the planet officially evil. The question is Earth evil? Yeah.
Good question. That's what the listeners.
We'll save that for the Sunday morning. For the Sunday morning
philosophy show. Yeah. So one of the things I really enjoy about this game is the story, and it definitely goes some places, and there's a lot of political intrigue, as much as Genesis games had that. And so we just got to Alterone. So actually, to summarize this a little bit, you're kind of given a backstory about this character named Dark Soul and this like evil presence. And there's this other person named Cain, and Cain has sort of like resurrected, or is trying to resurrect this dark dragon via or try to, with the help of Dark Soul, which is like the evil force, resurrect this dark dragon. And so as you're moving from city to city, it almost seems like Cain is like one step ahead of you. And so we just got to the city called Alterone, and you go talk to the king, and you're like, hey, I'm here to help. And the king's like, come with me, and throws you in jail. He's like, we don't need any of your help.
I know, he straight up just bamboozles you.
He does, yeah. But I like that, and then you find out that Cain had gotten to the king before you, and the king's kind of like, hey, man, you got to help me out. They made me do that. And so I like the idea of, like, you're not treated like a hero despite creating the Shining Force. So your team that you're creating is called the Shining Force. It's where the name of the game comes from. But you don't go into every town just like a marching band ready to welcome you. It's very often it's like, you're not really wanted here because we're being pressured by other forces, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you guys have seen, we can talk about Final Fantasy VI, of course, but I feel like this is one of the first games that had that level of intrigue that at least I can remember as a child on consoles.
Yeah, and I think, like, overall, the story of this game is fairly similar to most other RPGs. There's an evil force, go destroy it sort of thing. But the story that you don't see is that political side, and it was kind of a neat twist and change to that genre in a way. There's a lot to kind of see between the scenes that you might not pick up on as a kid. You just might be like, man, these people are mean to me. But as an adult, you really kind of see that side of it being political and whatnot.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And going back through as an adult, it did allow me to appreciate the story a little bit more. So one thing that we just saw was the end of chapter 1, and I am such a sucker for when games clearly denote chapters. So chapter 1 was called Runefaust Invasion. And it goes, when you complete a chapter, it cuts to black, and it shows you end of chapter 1, and then it shows you start of chapter 2, and the start of chapter 2 is called Spirit of the Holy Spring. And by the end of the chapter, you always have an understanding of like why it was labeled that. And I think when reading books, it's the same way. Like a really awesome chapter name kind of fulfills its prophecy or legacy by the time you end the chapter. Like you understand why it was called that. I don't know if you guys felt similar about the chapters named, but I love those a lot.
Yeah, I always like chapter names too.
Yeah, and it just made sense because when you start the game, it's the girl reading the book, and
yeah,
so it harkens back to that, showing you like this is a book that you're being read by having different chapters.
Yeah, that's a good. I didn't even put those 2 and 2 together, but yeah, that's a really good point there. Now, moving on to the story, we just entered the town of Rindo. And this is the first part of the ability to get one of the most powerful characters, Domingo, and you find like this little monster. It looks like almost like an alien monster thing or a battle toad. And there's a scientist. It's like, hey, there's a Domingo egg. You should go pick it up. And I like this because there are hidden characters that require you to do certain things, and most of the hidden characters are pretty overpowered, and so that was a lot of fun. But in the Discord, I was like posting, I'm not sure if anyone picked up on that, but all the hidden characters that were really worth getting, I kind of like posted images and with like some real cryptic hints there. And so I'm not sure if anyone took a look at those and found the hidden characters. But who here picked up Domingo?
I don't think I got Domingo,
but yeah, I didn't
get the egg. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like use it during battle at some point or something. I think it said. I don't remember, but yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of the hidden stuff I didn't pick up on. I just kind of played through the game. I was on a plane for the majority of it, so like I didn't have a chance to look anything up. And I'm like, that's probably the better way to go for me.
Yeah, it's like the 1993 way of playing the game.
Yeah, we'll see Domingo later because again, you have to hatch his egg later on. So we have the egg, but we can't really do anything with it. Now, one of the things I wanted to chat about was one of the battles after Rindo. You're in this cave network, and you're introduced to cave bats.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh god!
If I see one more unit evade, I know I didn't realize how bad evasion was in this game. But who here just like was fed up with like you go to attack and it's like, oh, it evaded.
Yeah, the cave bats were so annoying with that. They were all like, you had like a 30% chance to hit those guys.
Yeah, that was definitely frustrating. Magic was the key.
Yeah. What was? Oh, magic. Yeah, magic. You cannot evade.
Magic was definitely helpful there.
Yeah. Now I actually counted on one. This bat evaded 7 out of 8. 7 out of 8 physical attacks, and I was like, "Oh, come on!" Like, yeah, I get it random, but still, it feels real bad, right?
Yeah.
So I think we are in. I'm not sure what city we're in here, but when you go to the city, this might still be Rindo. But when you go to the city, there's a circus tent that's coming up, and it's like, "Hey, the circus is going to be in town," and then you leave, you do a battle, and then the circus is there. And as a child, that blew my mind. I'm like, hey, the city is actually growing. Like, they're adding things to the city. That is so cool.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that circus becomes a pivotal part in the storyline. Do you guys remember what happens in the circus?
Yeah. The circus where, what is it? The mayor's son is in there.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I'll help you. If you do me a favor,
if you save my kid.
Yeah.
Get the boat afterwards, which was a lot of work for the boat.
It was
for how long you keep it.
I love what they do with the boat. So we're gonna get to that in just a minute here. But you go into the circus, and again, I love the enemies in this game because there's these dire clowns and these mannequins, and they're kind of like husks that are laid out on the ground, but they hit really, really hard. And the end boss is called a marionette. Like, this is really cool.
Yeah, I think this was the first battle that was kind of like ramped up in difficulty.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because the marionette will use the magic. So there's sort of two ways that you can use magic, hostile magic. You can use single target, which is usually real low level, and then you can do more of an area targeting, which it looks like a plus icon. So you can basically hit 5 targets, and a lot of the bosses will use that multi-targeted magic thing. So you have to be very careful that you don't position your unit in like a plus sign, because you're like, oh, now you're eating 5 sources of damage.
Yep.
Yeah. And especially with your main unit. Okay, so I gotta ask, while we're still kind of early on, but did either of you guys have like this experience where, because this is what I did as a child, where the first time I played it, I learned very quickly that when your main unit dies, your main character, you lose the battle. But any other unit, you just pay a meager like level cost times 10 fee to heal them. And I don't know about you guys, but gold, never an issue.
Never an issue, yeah.
When I was a child, my strategy was to take Max, shove him to the back of the battlefield. You're not fighting. I'm not losing this battle. I'll just revive whoever else. And I just let him sit there at like level 3 for the entire game as a kid, which later on becomes a bit of an issue.
Yeah, that is a strategy to start with. I think one of the things I really enjoy about this game is it's not difficult. Like you said, you can kind of just like, all right, frontline all your units and save everything for the back. But what I really enjoy about this game is trying to min-max the characters, because when you kill, to level up a character from like 1 to 2, actually from any level, it's 100 XP. And when you kill a unit, assuming that it's within the level range and all that, you get 49 XP. But if you just deal damage to the unit, you'll get like 12 XP. So a lot of times what you want to do is you want to get a unit to like 2 hit points and then let one of your weaker guys just kind of clean up and get all that XP. Yeah. And so much of the game for me was more about like, all right, well, this is my strong unit and I could kill this one, but I'm going to make him go forward and kind of weaken up the other guys. I don't know if you guys did anything similar.
Oh yeah, always. It's a game of like winning the battle, but once you know you're winning the battle, you're like, okay, how do I optimize who's getting levels right here? Who do I want to see flourish?
Yeah, and Max does become very powerful if you kind of harvest him and let him level up, but it is dangerous to move him into battle because if he dies, it's back to the beginning. Definitely
played more aggressively with him this time through.
Yeah, I kind of didn't do too much planning with the leveling. I kind of just was like, okay, let's move to the end. Let's kill as many people as we can, kill them all, sort of thing with whoever. Because for me, I didn't know how much free time I was going to have. And I'm like, I want to beat this. I want to get through it. So, I kind of powered through some of those battles. And let's just say at the end of my game, a lot of characters probably were a lot more underpowered than they should have been.
Okay.
You had like 4 just god tier units, and the rest were like, I'm here. Hi.
Yeah.
I wanted to go a little bit back to gold because xWater, you mentioned about having lots of gold. So there is so gold serves a couple purposes in this game. One, to resurrect the units, but that's more of a pittance. What gold is more useful for is buying the occasional weapon upgrade. There's also an item store that will sell you some healing herbs and stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't think I actually used any healing herbs ever. I just kind of like squirreled them away and like, yeah, whatever.
Very rare, yeah.
Yeah, it was very rare to have them, and like I bought them at the first time because I'm like, oh, might as well have some. But
same.
It was very much like, I don't really need these.
You know what it is for me too is like, is the inventory management is a little bit tedious. So I was like,
it's
what?
Bad, yeah.
I'm just gonna let my healers do their job and it makes them feel useful. It keeps their morale up. That was like my headcanon for why I wasn't using healing herbs.
Yeah, the inventory management and just the way you interact with things, not the best. And I was trying to think of why. And the only thing I could think of is like maybe this game started as a Sega Master System game where they only had A and B, but it came out in what, 93?
Oh. Yep.
So,
Well, North America 93.
oh, true. Yeah.
I think it was the year before
So I
for
wonder what
Japan.
was. But I wonder if it started as a Sega Master System game with only 2 buttons, and that's why we have what we have.
Yeah. Because that's a good point, because there's like a very high level of difficulty when it came to like navigating menus and stats. Like one thing that I love doing is like going through and seeing like, okay, what's this guy's like strength compared to this guy, which you can totally still do, but it's definitely like there's a lot of menuing to get through all of that. So I didn't check in on them super often. Maybe like once a chapter I'd be like, all right, so like what's Ken's strength compared to Luke's and who's faster?
Yep. And that's really useful when you start getting more characters than your actual party can allow. And then you're like, all right, well, which character is better? Is Ken better or is May better just on the raw stats? And trying to filter through all that. So we actually just completed chapter 2, and we're on now chapter 3 called The Secret Weapon of Runefoss. The secret weapon we haven't got to yet, but it's actually really cool. But we are
super cool.
Yeah. We are in, I think, Bestoke is where it is. And this is where you meet a character named Kokichi. Who got Kokichi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the like flying gyrocopter guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't end up getting him.
Okay. So what you have to do is you have to talk to him in the city here and watch him fly, and his flying works a little bit, but then he ends up crashing and then he comes back later. So this is again kind of a multi-sequence thing where you have to explore the game kind of thoroughly.
Yeah, I think I talked to him, but I didn't tinker with his machine, and I think that's probably the part I missed.
Yeah. And so what you do is you do a battle here. Again, in the video, we kind of skip through most of the battles and just show kind of the highlights because a lot of the battles play out the same. You're just grinding out XP. Yeah. So we're in the city, and this character named Xylo has been... he's a werewolf, but I think he's also like... I don't remember. He's got some sort of ailment, which is making him very aggressive towards people, and you can get this lunar dew item. Actually, you get a moonstone, which you can give to an alchemist, and he creates this dew. Yeah. And you can pour it down his mouth, and he joins your party. And Xylo is an absolute beast.
Xylo is literally, quite literally,
He's so good.
No, he was immediately the best. Like, as soon as you get him, it's like, if you're not using Xylo, you're crazy. Because not only is he, like, super powerful and fast, but he can also move through rough terrain with relative ease.
Yes, yeah, he and his stats grow astronomically.
Oh my lord, I know, they were wild.
This is one of those where when I said I wanted to have new characters, there were still people I just could not pass up. And Domingo was one of them. Xylo was like he's a shoo-in for like best character there. So,
Xylo's awesome.
He's this really cool dude. He's this werewolf. And got this kind of white hair and like super muscly. By the way, we haven't talked about how the battle plays out. When you move your characters around, and they attack, it cuts to this battle scene, and it shows both units, and they do an attack. And his attack, he jumps up in the air and punches the enemy. It's so cool.
Yeah, he does like an aerial sweep, which is just so badass.
Yeah. Now, we just went to the battle. It has the secret weapon of Runefoss. What are we looking at here, folks?
That was dangerous right there.
Pretty sure that's the Large Hadron Collider.
Shooting particles. It's like this really massive laser beam. And what it does is... Actually, this battle is one of the more unique battles. Most of the battles you fight are just like kill all the units. But this one is this big laser, and it counts down. Every time it has its turn, it counts down. So it says like 10, 9, 8, and then 7, 6, 5. And when it hits 0, it says fire, and anything on like within 4... so it does like the straight line, like 4 hexes wide, and will just annihilate anything, doing like 20 points of damage to anything, regardless if it's an enemy or a friend. And so you want to, as much as possible, position yourself away from that straight line. But the battle is sort of set up so you have to run down this straight line.
You have to,
so
like,
it's
run
really
straight
cool.
Through. Did you guys, so like starting the battle, it takes you probably like 2 turns worth to get close to that straight line.
Yeah.
Did you guys like play it out and wait for the first laser fire to dodge it, or did you just like run head first right in?
I had some people take some damage on that. For sure.
Yeah. So I actually
did
go ahead there.
Too. That was
Okay.
nice.
I actually
was also
failed.
I also
on,
rushed in because I wasn't entirely sure how it was going to play out.
Yeah, I failed the first time through.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just got overconfident in my character. Max, he ate it, but
Yeah.
It's a little weird because it says, so the way it counts down, you would think that when it says 1, so it's counting down from 10, and when you think when it says 1, it would fire, but actually what it does is his turn says 3, 2, 1. And then his next turn says fire. So you actually have a little bit extra time than you'd think to dodge. And I was playing a little more conservatively. I was hiding everyone at like 4.
Oh, we got to talk about this right here where.
Oh, yeah.
Like you could talk to that priest and you can get that guy. But like the character placements in the towns and stuff when they walk away from you behind like counters and stuff or just stand in your way for an unreasonable amount of time. My goodness, that was so frustrating.
It was, especially because often there'd be narrow hallways, and you'd go in to get something, and then someone would come in and block your exit, and you're just like, oh, okay, I want to get out of here now.
That's when so I played it on the Switch with the Genesis collection, and they have that speed up feature as well as the rewind. And I gotta say that speed up feature came in handy for a lot of those situations. You're sitting there and you're like, this guy is in my way and he won't move. Just hold that R button down and he's gone in a second.
Yeah, that's super useful.
I have to admit to using the rewind on occasion. Sometimes in battles, I would do like a magic attack to heal, but I'd heal the wrong person.
Oh, no.
Like, I'm pressing like right, thinking it's going to go right, but it starts on the top.
Right, yeah, because it gives you like a directional diamond, and you think left is going to go left and up, down, down. But instead, it's like a list, and it's like right goes to the next one, and there's no way to know which is next and which is not.
I was going a little too fast, and I'd be like, right A. Oh no! Like I can't not do that. I got to rewind that.
Yeah,
because that happened to me as a kid so often. I remember I'd be like, no, I didn't want to do that. Why did I just want to keep playing, but I don't want to.
It's the chaos of battle.
Commonly said thing during a strategy RPG. No, I didn't want to do that. Okay, so this guy right here,
Elliot, right?
Elliot, yeah. I love Elliot. I thought he was one of the coolest characters in the game because he's like, you meet him and he's straight up from the get-go. He's like, I know whatever's going on here. Like, I know I'm on the bad side of things, but here's my shtick. Mm-hmm. I am all about loyalty, and I serve this king or this guy. And listen, we're gonna meet on the battlefield, and no hard feelings, but I'm not gonna betray my king. So even if he's like being weird, so we're fighting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so he's a cool guy to begin with. Also, like a cool dragon warrior, which is super cool. And then on top of all of that, he ends up being this like really, I'd say like the first boss in the game that's really intimidating. Like the marionette had like, I don't know, 34 health or something, had strong magic, and that was spooky. But you roll up to this guy and he's like 80 HP, and you're just like, what?
He's got a ton of hit points there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Elliot, you meet him in the traveling city of Pao, I think. Pao, P-A-O.
Another cool concept. Every like chapter has a cool concept city.
Yeah. And then you do that battle out on the battlegrounds, you kill Elliot, and then it's like, oh, the city's comes back. Actually, so what happens is you're in the city, and then they take off and go somewhere, and then you do your battle, and the city comes back. And when the city comes back, that's when you meet a character that says, hey, I've got a thing that can warm eggs. I see you have an egg. Why don't you let me warm it for you? And so it incubates, and you get Domingo. And Domingo is absolute cheating. So let me set the stage for Domingo.
Like a little squid monster.
It's this little squid monster. Yeah, absolutely. It's got this like white little bag over its head, and then you just see blue tentacles, and it's got 2 little eyes. It's super cute. Domingo is a magic user that he mostly just uses frost, but he can fly and his defense is ridiculous. So and enemies tend to prioritize him. He's like I think the only person they prioritize in battle more is Max. So you can kind of use him to like flush enemies, like get enemies to come to you, and they'll all do like 1 point of damage to Domingo, and then you can just fly over some mountains and kill him. He was absolutely phenomenal, and I feel bad for using him, but he's so fun.
Hey, no shame, man. When you know the strats. Now there was another character, I can't remember their name, that I found around this part of the game, where when the town moves and you go through the battle with Elliot, you can actually go back to the old location where the old town was. And in that open field, there's like another centaur guy just chilling. He's like, "Hey, want me to join you?" And I thought that was kind of funny that you get rewarded for like revisiting the old site of the town if you, for whatever reason, decide to do that. That was like one of the cool things about this game, was that like so many nooks and crannies hid these like cool unlockables and like little Easter eggs where it's not really like the level of detail I would expect out of a game that's like so old, you know?
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that's one of the things that I feel Fire Emblem has always missed, is that opportunity for just discovery and freeform exploration. Because if people are folks are know about Fire Emblem, they almost shuttle you from battle to battle. It's like, here's your battle, and then you have your social links or whatever you want to call it, and then you go to the next battle. Whereas, again, this one is more traditional JRPG, where you have your battle, and then you can just walk around town, talk to people, buy stuff, sell stuff, and all that stuff. And that's where you can kind of discover all these little nooks and crannies that that xWater's talking about.
Yeah, it's a really nice element. I definitely say that's a strength that Shining Force has over other tactical RPGs, is the fact that it does maintain like an outside of like the combat, it does maintain an actual like JRPG structure of like, talking to villagers, exploring towns, where any unlockable characters in like a traditional Fire Emblem game, you go through and you're like, well, that guy is the only unit with different hair and said something about one of my characters. I'll make them talk, and then bam, they're on my side.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the characters that join, not everyone, but most of the characters that will join you have portraits. So if you talk to a character and it has a portrait, you're like, there's probably a way to recruit this character at some point.
Yeah, you see a custom sprite, you're like, you're either fighting me or joining me.
Yeah. Or you're the king.
Or you're the king.
Now we just rolled up to the next city here. So by the way, we completed chapter 4 called The Great Fortress of Balbazek, and now we're in chapter 5, Gateway to Hidden Shrine. And
so at this point of the game, I gotta ask: did either of you continue using either of the bird people at this point?
No. Those they really do so little damage.
But they traverse the terrain, but they just can't hold their own in battle. They die so quick. They don't do any damage. It was a shame.
Yeah,
so they were really cool in design.
Yeah, I liked that, but I too was like, I can't use you guys. I really like this king though, because he's like, there's no rule that says I can't also own a shop. Like,
you walk up to the shop and it's completely empty, and then all of a sudden the king just comes out and he's like, hey, how you doing? And there's 2 shops, and he has both of those, and then he'll run away and then go back to his throne, and you can talk to him. So he's kind of running the whole city here, the commerce of the city, which I really enjoy. And again, lots of real tongue-in-cheek writing in this game. It's very enjoyable, and it kind of makes me crack a smile as I walk through. Although there are some kind of real serious heady tones there. You got this real dark evil, light versus evil. So that's not tongue-in-cheek, but a lot of the characters are kind of like almost self-aware, right? Mm-hmm. So we are in the city of Warel. Our ship that we finally got a ship, and it got attacked, and the ship got broken, and so we're at the city of Warel, which is sort of they have like mermaids and stuff, and they're like, hey, yeah, we'll go ahead and fix up your ship, but there's a priest of ours which is missing, so why don't you go try to find the priest, and then when you find the priest, we'll fix up your ship. And
doesn't the king say something about the build too, like just tell people about us or something?
Yeah, because I think once you fix up the ship, he's like, great, that'll be 100,000 gold or like 1,000,000 gold pieces, and you're like, okay, and he's like, just kidding, just let people know about us.
This is the first time an influencer was given something for free and just set the stage.
Really, just
It was all
set the
downhill from
precedent for
there.
it.
Yeah. I don't think Max did #ad when he went to this town.
Sponsored by Naro. Yeah, that's a good point there. So I actually wanted to talk a little bit about some interesting things that were mistranslated or changed from the Japanese version, because we have a little bit of a downtime here. I think this is a good spot.
Sure.
So what's really interesting is that in the Japanese version of this game, Max had amnesia and was found washed up by the beach by Lao, and became best friends there. And that was actually scrubbed from the English version or the North American version. And then also we find out that Max is the brother of Lord Kane, which I think we get some sort of... we haven't really interacted with Kane yet too much in the game. I always do feel like there's sort of this brotherly connection when they talk. I don't know if you folks kind of also notice that they seem to be sort of like they like know each other. But in any case, the other thing is I actually kind of found that was funny was, so you were talking a while ago about Luke, right, xWater?
Yeah.
So Luke was actually a mistranslation. His original name was Lug, which then when they had another character named Luke in future Shining Forces caused a little bit of confusion on like, wait, which one is the real Luke here? So there's a lot of differences, and this is why I really love digging into the games here, because there's always these like really weird... The effort of these translations were always kind of... there were weird things that happened and it never really made sense, but they made for these really interesting... factoids about your favorite games here.
Yeah.
The washing up on the shore, I don't want to talk about the ending, but like that makes more sense a little bit, I feel like. And
at the end, yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. So
like I think that really ties it together.
Return to where you started.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of interesting that didn't make it over to the US version, and now I kind of feel
it's weird when those things like, because there's no like reason for that not to make it over. I like off the top of my head, it's like, why would that get scrubbed from this version of it?
Yeah,
that's a great question there. But in any case, let's move on to the next chapter. We're on chapter 6, the Descendant of the Sacred Dragon, and we arrived at the city of Rudo, which is like run by children, which is a little weird. All the kids are like, "Hey, we're building the infrastructure in this town."
Some Peter Pan stuff going on here.
Yeah.
And then you're placed in, when you get into this next battle, you're placed in another one of these mountain maps, which...
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, my... I gotta say, out of all of the combat decisions for like creating maps, really got tired of the mountain maps with like all right, all of your units can move 2 squares each turn.
Yeah. Except for some units, like
Except
Xylo.
for some, Xylo, who again MVP of everything.
But that kind of like, I always felt like, I gotta hang Xylo back, because if I let him just be the Rambo this up over here and just go kill everything, he's just gonna become this overpowered guy that...
And it's like that experience management again that we were talking about.
Did you guys tend to defeat all the enemies, or did you kind of go for the goal at the end of the maps?
I usually went for all the enemies.
Yeah, I did too. And it's also not always clear what the goal is. Sometimes you kill... You'll kill like an enemy that's like called Master Mage, and I guess that's like the boss, if you will, of that encounter. And then all the other enemies will die. And you're like, wait, there's still like 150 XP points I can get here.
I didn't want to waste those.
We just got the dragon character.
Blue.
Yeah. Now I kept him for a little bit, probably longer than I should have.
Yeah, Blue. Blue's a baby, and I got rid of him kind of right away.
Yeah. I liked him, but a lot of the flying types is too easy to get rid of them because they do so little damage, and they just get completely clobbered.
I think when you promote Blue, he will become more powerful if you invest resources into him. But at this point, we're kind of like 3/4 through the game, and it's like we don't really want to...
You don't really have time to babysit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the other.
It's like the whole idea behind catching a Dragonair or a Dratini in Pokemon. Like, sure, you can get it to level 55 and make it a strong Dragonite, but is it worth the time?
Look at this guy knowing all the Pokemon levels. I do know. I did look this up because I was interested in promoting and whatnot, and like you can promote after level 10, but it's recommended to wait till like level 20 for the best stats.
I did that for all my characters.
Yeah, that's insane because you got to wait so much longer.
Yeah,
but they become so much more powerful.
Yeah, I was always kind of like that was always kind of ingrained in me from playing so much Fire Emblem games, where typically you want to like hold off for as long as possible to gain the most stats while you're still your first class. And I think you mentioned it, Wiz, but in this game you can level up beyond level 20 when you do promote. Is that true?
Yep. Yeah, I feel like every time I play the game, I have to relearn that because I forget. But yeah, the stat growth slows down considerably, but I believe the max level is actually 99, so you can actually go quite a while.
Yeah, so like there's no punishment to promoting early, like in a sense of capping out on level, because you're not going to hit level 99. It's just
and
you
when
won't
you
gain as fast.
When you lose battles, you actually keep all the XP and all the gold and stuff like that. Also, I've seen people play really hard, like other RPGs, there's the single character run where you can say, I'm just going to do max. And a lot of that is just grinding him out. And so what you'll do is you'll go to a battle and kill like all the units, and then you'll cast. Max has this spell called Egress, which will teleport you back and reset the fight. So a lot of people will just they'll kill everything except for one unit and then egress and then start the fight and really grind out those levels. That'd be
some tedious work right there.
Speaking of tedious work here, we are on another level which has a very large surface area and tons of mountains and woods.
Yeah,
and
is this the one where like a C shape essentially?
Yes. So you start at the top of the sea.
And then back left.
That's correct, because you're trying to go into
all
the castle.
All the while going over top of mountains and forests and Yeah,
that one was a little like, oh, come on. Why'd you make it so big? Like, I like that the world's big, but like within reason, guys.
Yeah,
and often
I think a lot of sorry, go ahead.
Often they'll take like 45 minutes, and sometimes you get impatient, and then again you make a stupid move.
You make that
main character dies, and you're like, no, another 45 minutes.
Yeah. Which is where that Genesis Collection Rewind really comes in handy.
I started a few battles back. I noticed that there was treasure chests during the battles. Like the first cave I think had them, and so like I always made it a thing to open all the chests because I'm like, I don't know if we're gonna ever
have time to come back,
around.
Right?
And I know at some point there is a weapon, and I don't think we reached it just yet. But there's a weapon that you can only get in a battle.
Yes, I think is that a lance, if I remember right?
I think it is, yeah.
Okay.
I remember there was a heat axe I got in a battle at one point, but I got that from killing a dude and not from
a lizard man.
Yeah.
And some of those weapons that we talk about, you can't actually use until you promote your units here.
Yeah.
And this fight that we just fought, so it's the end of chapter 6, and you fight, I think her name's Michelle or something like that. For me,
the witch lady.
For me, most of my characters are around like 16 to 18. And this was actually a hard wall for me because they were expecting me to do a lot more damage than I could. And this character will essentially one-shot any of your characters. She does so much damage. So you want to just burn her down as quickly as possible. But she's got like 70 hit points. My characters were doing like 6 or 7 points of damage, which is fine. The problem is all the bosses in this game heal
in between
rounds. So you'll do maybe 20 points of damage, and she'll heal 15, and then she's killing one of your characters, and so it's just this real battle. And eventually, I think I did that battle like 5 times until I was finally large. My characters are strong enough, to promote them, and then I was like, all right, cool, then I can kill her.
I want to talk about getting the weapons in fights. Like there was like some things where you kill lizard and you get that axe. But if your character had max inventory filled out already, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't even get a warning, I believe.
Right.
And so that was one of the frustrating things about this game again.
But it isn't gone forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Forever. And
no, it's not. It's actually not. It's not gone forever.
Oh.
Yeah. So here's the weird thing. They don't. Again, there's a lot of things they don't explain in this game, and so I don't know if you ever went to the shop. So when you go to the shop, there's a couple things you can.
Section.
Yes, you can buy, you can sell, and there's like specials. And if you go, if you're, unless you have that situation, you're like, oh, what sort of specials you have for sale? And they never have specials. So I think after a while, you stop looking.
Like, why is this even here?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So I wanted to point out another area. We're in Prompt. And there's this area where there's a poster on a wall that you should be able to read, but when you read it, it's like nothing's here. And I never really spotted this, but after you get imprisoned in Prompt and then you are broken free, you can go back to that letter and read the letter on the wall. Anyone do this?
I did, yeah.
All right. Did you do it because you knew about it, or did you just happen to stumble upon it?
I just happened to stumble upon it. I saw the note on the wall. I'm like, what's this? Let me search. And
well, boom. Again, that note, you can't, when you search it initially, nothing happens, but you have to do it after you break out.
Yeah, I missed it the first time around.
Oh,
which
nice.
Is why that worked for me, because otherwise I wouldn't have been like, oh, let me check it again.
This is another one I posted a clever little hint on Discord. I'm curious if anyone spotted it. But you get the samurai Musashi. Him and Xylo could probably just take out the entire army here because he's sort of slow moving, so you can give him a mobility ring to give him a little extra movement, and he's got this katana that shoots out this blue spark thing, and this thing does so much damage. I just did 35 points of damage to an ice worm, which killed him in one hit. He is so strong. He's got like 70 hit points and tons of defense, so he's sort of just the real busted unit in the game.
Yeah, he was definitely useful, but he was a little slow moving. Yep. So, like, by the time I got him somewhere, Ken had already taken out half the people.
Okay. Yeah. And so we're now going up to the tower. We passed Prompt, and we're in the ancient tower, and we met two characters. Again, we're still getting characters this late. You get Aleph and Tarasu. Aleph, I think he's like a cat thief, and Tarasu is a priest or a bishop, and I actually didn't switch off to him, but did anyone switch off to Tarasu?
No, I think at this point I had my party.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Yeah, most people probably do that. One of the really great things about this healer, though, it has this spell called Aura, and Aura actually heals things in it'll heal like up to like 10 or 12 things. It's a very, very large area. So you can just kind of collect your whole party and cast Aura on everyone and just like, all right, cool, everyone's healed up now. Yeah, so he's very, very powerful.
Yeah.
Now, earlier we got this Sword of Light, which is a really awesome looking sword. It's like this, this sword that glows white. And then we just got the Sword of Darkness, and the sword glows black. And the king in Prompt tells us we need to go back to, I believe the Shining Path is actually the thing that we can forge what we've been told is the ultimate weapon called the Chaos Breaker, which is the combination of light and darkness. So cool. I don't know. I'm kind of a sucker for like this real cheesy light and dark coming together to form the, it's like Transformers of weapons, right? But
it is pretty awesome.
Yeah, this is really cool. And then you get the best
Adam.
Sword, man.
Yeah, you do forge Chaos Breaker, and then you go into things are starting to get more like technology here, and you meet Adam, which is this robot. Did anyone try out Adam at all?
No.
No.
I like robots, but like I said, like I was already done with my party, and I was like, this is near the end. Let's just
finish
not
it
waste
up.
any time. Let's get this done with.
Oh, sorry. Actually, it looks like you forged the Chaos Breaker after you do that battle. But yeah, Adam's not super great. I think once you level him up long enough, he can become powerful. But he comes out of the start just like punching people for 1 damage. You're like, get out of here, man. But you put the You put the Sword of the Light on one pedestal, Sword of the Dark on the other pedestal, and you get the Chaos Breaker. Did you guys know that you could use items in battle? Use weapons in battle?
I didn't know you could use weapons in battle. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Did anyone try to go get the light sword again?
Oh, I didn't. No, can you?
You can't, but I
You
tried.
can't.
So you take the Chaos Breaker. It's like, all right, now I'll take these back.
I take all of them.
They were
I
still
will
there.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, Chaos Breaker. So they don't do a good job of telling you can do these things. There are some weapons, like the Heat Axe, for instance, you mentioned, that allows you to cast, I believe, Blaze. And a lot of
that's cool.
A lot of weapons. What will happen is when you use a weapon, they have a certain amount of charges, and as you use it, before it breaks, you'll get one message. It will be like, "Oh, Max uses the fire axe, but cracks start to appear," and that's when you can use the fourth option for the weapon keeper, which was repair. I don't know if you guys saw what is repair.
Yeah, I saw repair, but I'm like, none of my weapons broke, and when my characters died, nothing happens.
Yeah, I wasn't sure when that came into effect.
This all makes so much more sense now.
I know, right? It's so many little details that are fun to play around with. Here's the very last character here, Hanzo.
Hiding in the flower bush.
Yeah, as you go into Runefoss, the very last city, you meet Hanzo. He's in the bush, and he's got like a little flower there. Again, I posted that on the Discord. I'm curious if anyone picked that up. And I am right now in the video, I'm just kind of going through the tavern. This is the place where you drop off characters and put new characters in your party. But they all kind of hang out in this little bar / tavern, and you can go see your shining force. And so that was my end
That's
party.
so cool.
It's
really
cool to see all them all.
Yeah, and you could even talk to them all and get like a little bit of like, you definitely don't get a huge dive into like their character or personality or anything like that, but you get like a little bit of info about them, like can dive a little deeper, which is always fun, you know.
Yeah,
it was just fun to see that area get built out throughout the game, because it was very empty at first, and now they're all hanging out in a tavern and stuff, and it was really cool. And as a kid, that was like, wow, look at all these characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're talking about building up the Shining Force, I don't know, that's a really cool name. It's evocative of just like real retro style, power growth, I guess.
Though I feel like we included so many people into the Shining Force. There was like almost no rules on who could join. People were just like, hey, I want to join you. And we're like, okay.
Right. It seemed like there was a very low bar. They're just like, hey, you want another, what's it called? Another horseman?
Yeah.
Sure.
I
got 5 already.
Can I join?
Yeah.
I'm useless to you.
So for people,
sure, why not?
For people watching the video, keep your eye on Gong, because I promoted Gong, and again, he's this monk, and he just pretty much takes his shirt off, and he's this hulking bodybuilder guy, but he looks like he has sunglasses on. So he's kind of in the lower left of the video there. I just love the look. He doesn't actually have sunglasses, but it just really looks like he has sunglasses.
Yeah, Gong was really cool.
Gong was fun.
I liked him a lot.
Now I just showed off an attack with Hanzo. Hanzo does the same type of attack as Xylo, where he jumps up in the air, but instead of punching him, he has this sword that he strikes through. And so Hanzo is a pretty cool unit. He's got a couple spells. Actually, let's talk about spells that are useful and spells that are not so useful. So any spell that actually deals damage, like Blaze or Frost or Lightning, I think they call it Zap actually, those are all useful because they'll actually do damage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And of course you have your healing spells. But you also get some other spells like Muddle, Slow,
Sleep.
And those hardly ever work. And when they do work, it's not really apparent what they're actually doing. And that's sort of unfortunate, because a lot of the cool, like, oh, cool, I got a new spell, and it's completely worthless, so I'll never use it.
Yeah.
But one of the spells that Hanzo has is De-Soul. Actually, Domingo gets this also, I believe. And De-Soul will instant kill units if it works, but it hardly ever works, so it's not very useless. Or it's pretty useless there.
Can we talk about how we weren't able to heal the undead enemies and kill them?
Yes! Actually, even worse, I was commenting in that Discord that we had dark priests that were literally casting heal on skeletons. I'm like, oh, come on, does no one here know about... and I get it, a dark priest casting heal, maybe it's not actually heal, but
it's like a dark
something
heal.
Else. Yeah, dark heal.
But that was just like, my lord.
I am a stickler for that sort of canonical fantasy lore. Like, I'm very angry when people mess with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we're actually entering
recognized.
Yeah. We're actually entering the end game here. We've got Chaos Breaker, and they tell you go out to the westmost point, and you use the Chaos Breaker, and the Castle of the Ancients is summoned forth from the water, which, again, super cool. It's like, this.
That took me a moment because I'm like, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
And then, like, it became apparent. I'm like, okay, there's a clear spot on the map to go and do this thing. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But it took me a little bit longer than I'd like to admit because I have not played this game since I was a child, and I don't think I ever beat the game as a child because remember, I didn't read.
So here I am. If you're watching the video, I'm using Chaos Breaker, and it casts Frost in Frost level 2, which is going to hit up to 5 enemies there. And so, xWater, you're talking about keeping your unit back and just protected. And what's great about Chaos Breaker is you can do that. You can still attack with your main
that was
unit.
Some mad range on that Frost.
Yeah, and you still get to get the XP. It is so good. Chaos Breaker. Actually, this is the very first playthrough that I realized that you could do that with Chaos Breaker, and it really changes the game because it's like, holy.
I assume that mechanic's still in Shining Force 2 then?
I'm not sure. I bet we'll find out that at some point.
Using weapons in battle, but
at
least I'm gonna try.
Probably, yeah.
Because man, that is a game changer. Kind of wish I knew that.
It's really cool. Again, there's so many little things about this game that I feel like every time I play it, I learn another one thing or two that changes how I play. Now we're on the second to last battle here. We are fighting Dark Soul himself. He's actually at the Dark Dragon, and I cast Blaze 4, which is this massive fireball damage. Actually, so there's each spell can have up to 4 ranks, and when you cast it, you can choose like how each rank costs more mana, so you can sort of like dial back the damage. Rank 1 is always a single target. Rank 2 and rank 3 are always multi-targets, and then rank 4 goes back to just single target. So that is your like unit killer. You're like, I need to annihilate something quick. But you go to Dark Soul.
Dark Soul should have just like attacked us at the start when he
he probably should have. He just kind of holds back.
Yeah.
He's like,
it's like
you guys
every
make
one
it
of
to
these
me.
RPGs where they could have just like nipped this in the bud, but they're like, you know what?
You're not worth my time. I'll let my minions attack you.
Yeah. You think after the second battle with your minions failing, you're like, okay, you know what? Let me just take care of this. This is.
Let's not leave this one up to chance.
I'd like to see that game and just like the player get decimated and like that's the ending. That's the ending of the game. You don't win.
You completed it. When you go to Dark Soul, his life is question mark. I think that was awesome. But that just means that it's more than 100. Once you get it below 100, it will then tell you how much damage you have. I think it would have been cool if it was just question mark the whole time. You're like, I'm just pumping out damage as much as I could.
Seeing what happens, yeah.
They just couldn't fit 100 on the screen is what it was. And they're like, how can we make this look cool?
Yeah. So this is the very last fight against Dark Dragon. I want to hear what your strategy... Actually, someone set up the scene, and then I'd like to hear the strategy, how you cleared it.
Well, the scene we got in front of us here is... honestly, I think one of the coolest like visual parts of this game, where you got this absolutely terrifying, monstrous 3-headed like skeletal dragon, and it just looks like it just instills fear in you all the way through, and it's just absolutely like horrifying. It's one of those things where in a Genesis game you don't really expect anything to like really shake you, but like this thing is actually really scary.
Yeah. And on the left and right are 2 pedestals that spawn enemies, but I believe if you stand on them, they actually don't respawn. Because
that is true, but I'm pretty sure that's an activation for the head to actually do a single target attack on you, and it is crushing how much damage it will do.
I guess I got lucky.
Yeah, it'll do. So an average character might at this point have like 40 health. And I think that attack will do something like 35, so it'll almost kill you if you just stand there. So, but yeah, put your strong units on that hole so they won't respawn, and let them just kind of soak that damage.
Yeah, But yeah, I definitely attacked the right side first for whatever reason and was able to take that down, and then the left side. I kept a lot of units back in case I had to do healing or anything, because this is where I did actually use some of the items finally, because I'm like, it's the last battle, might as well use them.
Yep. Yeah.
And
What's
I
actually
threw pretty quick, luckily.
what's sort of funny about this fight is one of the things I tried out to see if it would work is so you get to Dark Dragon and you're like, oh, I want to heal up, because actually after you finish the fight previous, you're still like, any units that died are out. They're not coming back for the third fight or the next fight. So I was like, I'm gonna egress and go back and heal everyone, and I come back and they make you redo the second fight again. So you're like,
you gotta redo both.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah, it
I
makes
did
enough
like
sense
that.
with how it like plays out.
Yeah, I did like that in between battles, and like when there was multiple battles, typically you would get healed up.
Yeah.
That was a nice little like. That's fair.
Yeah.
Now, once Dark Dragon is down, they'd say, "Hey, Max, go kill him with your Chaos Breaker," and you put the Chaos Breaker, you stab the dragon with the Chaos Breaker, and it's like it's locked in. You can't let go of the sword, and the sword is stuck in the dragon, and then the whole castle starts shaking and crumbling. And with your last effort, you egress the rest of your party, but unfortunately, you're not able to make it out, and so the castle goes down, and presumably you're still in it.
Yeah.
What a martyr, man! What
I
a
know.
guy!
It's kind of sad, and
It
and
is.
your party is
It's one of those games.
Yeah, your
where-
party
where
is out
your
there.
character, like no matter what you did, like
Yep.
you're like, oh no, he's dead or he's gone. And
Mhm.
I think this was the first game I can remember now where like, yeah, that happens.
Mhm.
You won, but at the sacrifice of yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that ending too, because it's like most RPGs will bring the really like traditional and cop out like, oh, but with our friendship power, we were able to
We
with our
saved
strong
you.
bonds, we were
Yeah.
able to save him. It's like, no, you know
Power of
what?
love
That's
saved
just how we're
us.
finishing it.
Yep. And so you see some final moments with the party, and then it cuts back to the very beginning of the woman there with the book who was telling you the story, and he just kind of says, "Hey," and that's what happened. But she kind of leaves a little bit of a little hint. It's like, "Hey, that's what people think happened, but we all know what really happened, right?" And so you get the idea, like, oh, okay, so everything that just happened was being read to me by this woman, and so presumably, I think she kind of hints that she's reading the story to Max, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah. And then they cut to the credits, but I've kind of cut that part out for the video, and
Yeah, it
we'll
was
see the
long.
credits at the end. But it cuts to this closing scene, and there's this farmer who's talking to this robot, and it's like, "Hey, fancy seeing you around here. You really came here from a long way away. Like, what are you doing?" And so you think this farmer's talking to this robot, right?
Hmm.
But the camera kind of pans to the right, and it shows the back. It's clearly Max, because you see the back. He's got the traditional hero garb there, and the farmer's like, "Hey, why you should just settle on down here and live the rest of your days here." And Max is like, "That's certainly what I could do." It's like, I think that's really cool, because it's like that thing where a very traditional story of whether it be the Romans or the armed forces, they go out into battle and then they come back and they retire as a farmer, right?
Yeah.
That's a very traditional ending there, and Max turns around and looks at you, and that's the
Love
end.
that ending scene. Turns around and gives it like a nice little look right at the camera. And he's like, "You can call me," and then just blank.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It was a nice like just in case you didn't get it. Let's just give it to him. But yeah, like, and I think this ending, as I mentioned earlier, like it's very much ties back to that whole amnesia thing that was cut from the US version.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like, you made it to this town and you change your life, and then this person's reading this story to you to tell you like what you've done, what your sacrifice was. But it was really cool way to wrap it up, and I think losing that beginning kind of ruined it for this version. So knowing it now, though, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Makes it better.
That's awesome. So closing thoughts. Did you guys enjoy your time here?
Yeah. I had a lot of fun playing the game. There's definitely some frustrations of the gameplay in the 90s that this had. And like, I remember liking Shining Force 2 a lot more, but I think it's a lot of the things that I had problems with in this game in terms of, equipping things and item management and stuff like that are still present in the next version. But
Yeah.
overall, like, the game's fun. The story, it's your typical save the world. There's an evil guy. You need the special sword, but the stories in between that, the politicalness of it, the playing that side of things and going to the towns, and having towns kind of grow and change. Because we had the very first town, we left it and we came back and it's all destroyed.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So we had a lot of that throughout the game, and it was really kind of cool. I think it was like one of the first times you see this in a game of this time. So it's definitely a classic, and I'm glad to finally have been able to sit down and play it all the way through and kind of get an understanding of what they were going for back then. But yeah, it was great. It was a fun time. It was a perfect game to the start of this because I think we all had some connection to this game in some way, and so it was good to find that and do this.
Awesome. xWater, how about you? Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think what I really, really like about this game, I mean, the things that Jaku mentioned are all really great, like the evolving towns and everything. But when it comes to the cast of characters, I think that's also where it really shines, where, I see what I did there.
They're so fun to pick up.
Right. But no, like, you have so many choices between characters. And while, like, there isn't, a huge difference between, like a warrior or a swordsman, and there's all these other classes. It's just, I love how many different types. Like, you got the gyrocopter dude, you got a ninja, you got a samurai, you got warriors, you got archers, you got mages, you
little
got
tentacle with a hat.
hamsters. You've got so many different units that you can like interact with and play with, and that's just so much more detail than I would expect from like this kind of game, right? And that, I think that's like a huge part of its charm, is just how wide the cast of characters is.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen more like variety between the characters' interactions and having a whole different branching path of things with different characters interacting. But I understand for the time that was probably insane to think about, but it set the groundwork to have that sort of thing. And the cast of characters was amazing. So
I think for its time, it definitely like really made a big splash and laid a strong foundation for like quality tactical RPGs, because there's so much that it did so well. I think the only parts that it really kind of falls flat is just in the strict mechanics itself. I know what kind of frustrated me about the battles was like having the turns be like not knowing who's going next, who's gonna go where.
It's always a mystery.
Sometimes, like, Luke's gonna go 2 times within 5 units. Sometimes he's gonna wait there for like 3 days, and it's just like, I don't really, it makes it harder to plan it out. But
although I gotta say, when you've mispositioned a unit and you're like, oh, I just need this one unit to go, there's always that nerve-wracking moment of when the cursor starts moving towards the unit, like, oh, is it gonna get an enemy or the one I want? So
yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this amazing game. So we got a couple wrap-up things here before we sign off for good. So again, big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters for this episode. We'd love to see you all in the Discord hanging out with us. I think this game in particular had a lot of chatter, so it was really fun to see everyone's experiences. I think we got some new people that had not played this game before, so it was fun to give them kind of subtle clues there. The other thing to remember is that if you do support us on Patreon, we are giving out a Christmas card. Sorry, it's a holiday card, actually, where Lobos and I did a quick little photo shoot. It's very retro-inspired. I love it. And they're signed, and we're going to be sending those out to people that are our supporters on Patreon. And so any tier will get you that. So head on over to patreon.com/Saturday Morning Gaming Show to learn more on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about, we have a special holiday stream coming up. A special holiday podcast coming up. And we're looking for people to send in audio clip of 1 to 2 minutes of one of their favorite gaming memories. And those will be included on a future episode. So I would really love to hear if you've got something that you are real fond of remembering for Christmas or any other holiday that's gaming related. Please shoot on over an audio recording, upload that to SoundCloud, and shoot that over to either Saturday Morning Gaming Show at gmail.com or on the Twitter at SaturdayMGaming. Now, I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Hall of Heroes for Shining Force. So the Hall of Heroes is a chance for you to flex your gamer cred. All you need to do to join is beat the game of the week. And once you beat it, just send in a screenshot of the credit screen with your name somewhere nearby, and you'll be awarded some points, and you'll be included in our Hall of Heroes. And so we actually have our Hall of Heroes. I'm going to go over real quick just to congratulate those people that did manage to beat Shining Force. This was a long game, right, Jaku, xWater? How long did it take you to beat?
Because I had the fast forward between battles and stuff, I was able to complete it basically on 2 plane rides, about 8 hours each, so 16 hours or less.
Okay,
so
all
not
right.
too bad.
Yeah, probably somewhere in that range. I will say I very liberally use the fast forward to, speed through like combat scenes and stuff like that. And I also, shamefully enough, used the rewind when I needed to. If I put Max in the wrong spot, I was like, all right, Max, maybe that spot's gonna get you.
Maybe you're supposed to be down over here instead.
Yeah,
right?
maybe we take you and put you 3 squares away from the enemy instead. And so yeah, like the little benefits out of the Genesis pack on the Nintendo Switch definitely gave me the ability to speed up that playing a little bit. It's a long game. She's hard to get through in a short enough time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're glad you guys managed to finish it, and we're also glad these other 2 individuals managed to finish it. The very first one, I believe this is a brand new entrance to the Hall of Heroes. We have Mickey Mole.
Congratulations.
Sent in a message that said completed Shining Force. So we have them up on the screen. Awesome. Congratulations on that. And the next one, of course, we've got Gaming Steiner still here representing the top of the leaderboards. Gaming Steiner says, that was a tough one, but absolutely one of my favorite tactics experiences. Loved every second of this wonderful classic. So thanks so much, both of you. And then, of course, let's take a look at the leaderboards just to see where everyone stands. Again, this is only episode 2, so we have many more episodes for people to jump in on those leaderboards and make their mark. So starting from the bottom, we have number 3, which is the Joyful Dragon with 10 points. Number 2 is Mickey Mole, a big 20 points for completing Shining Force. And of course, Gaming Steiner, number 1 with 30 points. So if you want to get on here, there's plenty of space. All you got to do is beat the next game. And with that, I want to talk a little bit about what that next game is. So xWater and Jaku, when you think holiday movies, what movies do you think about when you're home alone?
Die Hard.
Die Hard.
Apparently, let's go with Batman Returns. People have been using that one on me lately.
Or maybe on the nose of Home Alone.
Home Alone! How did you know? We're going to be checking out Home Alone we're going to play it both on the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis because they're both pretty short. The Super Nintendo one, there's actually 2 modes, but even the longest mode, Expert Mode, only takes 40 minutes to complete, and we have an hour episode, so we're going to devote 30 minutes to each. And that will be with Lobos and I. We're going to do a little special holiday episode with Home Alone. So please, if you're interested, each game that you complete will award you 5 points. So you can have a total of 10 points for completing the Sega Genesis version of Home Alone and the Super Nintendo version of Home Alone. xWater, Jaku, either you played Home Alone before?
I have, and I think the Genesis one is better.
Yep, Genesis is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. It's different because there was Home Alone on the Game Boy and on the NES as well. And if you played those, the Super Nintendo one plays very similar to that. But the Genesis one was different. It had you going from house to house, and it was kind of
setting
cool.
up traps. Lots of cool stuff there.
It's definitely a different experience. I always loved when the games were both on Genesis and Super Nintendo, and they were different.
Yeah.
There was a lot of those back in the day.
Yeah, there was a lot of those.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited to listen and watch that episode.
Awesome, cool. Well, sadly, we have reached the end credits of this episode, and we wanted to thank everyone for watching us on Twitch. That's twitch.com/Saturday Morning Gaming Show, or for listening to us on the podcast. If you want to check out the show live, we air generally every other Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Central U.S. time. And, of course, the podcast is released the following Sunday. So make sure to, follow and subscribe on that podcast. It will be delivered to you instantly, and you'll have all that retro gaming goodness ready for your drive into work on Monday. And, of course, if you have any feedback, we would love to hear from you. You can shoot us an email at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter at SaturdayMGaming. All the links we have are posted there. So if you ever want to know, like, hey, where's that Discord or where's that Patreon, just head on over to Twitter. And wanted to give a special shout out on over to TechnoAxe for much of the music during this episode.